Imagine that your listener keeps saying, what's in it for me? Why is this significant? Why does this matter? Why is he telling me this? Why is she telling me this? And then you spend a little bit of time to let your listener know exactly what it is that you are bringing them along this ride for.
Most hosts never achieve the results they hoped for. They're falling short on listenership and monetization, meaning their message isn't being heard and their show ends up costing them money. This podcast was created to help you grow your listenership and make money while you're at it. Get ready to take notes. Here's your host, Adam Adams.
What's up, podcaster? It's your host, Adam Adams. I was just listening to a client's podcast. They wanted to get a little bit of feedback. So I did that. I spent a little bit of time, listened to one of their episodes. It's a fairly new podcast, great clients. And there's this part of the podcast where my client went into a whole bunch of detail, given value bombs, like all the details about everything that you need. And there came a point where I actually forgot. I have to say this and might be a little embarrassed too, but I was like lost. I was wondering, where are we? What are we talking about again? Like there's all this information, it's details, it's repetitive, it's over and over. And all of those things were great, but I didn't know where we were. And so I thought about that. And I thought, I've had podcast episodes like that, especially in the beginning. And my listener, you probably have had or will have a lot of podcast episodes just like that, where you come to the table with facts and details and you're excited. You might even be a little proud of yourself, but you're mostly just excited to share it with your perfect avatar, that listener on the other end whose earbuds are in and they're cooking or cleaning or doing whatever they're doing. And you want to be able to add value to them. And so you spend all this time getting all the detail. And then what ends up happening is they kind of get lost. This episode was about 45 minutes. The takeaways could have been very clear. And so what do I think that they did wrong? Or what do I think you might be doing wrong? Well, I think that when you get into a whole bunch of details, like microscopic, granular stuff, and you forget to mention back to your listener why we're here, why did we come to this place? Why are you listening today? You got to think about your listeners always saying, what's in it for me? That's your listener's favorite radio station, WIIFM. What's in it for me? And so your listener is sitting there saying, all right, he's telling the story about his client. He's going into some detail, but why do I effing care? Like, why am I here? Why am I listening? What's in it for me? What am I going to get out of it? And at the same time, I'm in Spanish class. So I've been to Mexico a few times and other parts of Latin America, and they speak Spanish, and I want to learn Spanish. There's a lot of reasons why I want my podcast agency to help Spanish speakers. I think Latin women are beautiful. And of course, I've been visiting a lot of as many countries as many times as I can. So it's like, hey, I may as well speak a little bit of Spanish. That way I can communicate when I'm down there. That way I can bring in Spanish speaking podcasts and we can serve them. And so I have been doing an app on my phone that I paid for every single day. And I also hired a Spanish speaker from another country, Dominican Republic, to support me twice a week. And I might move that to 3, but the point is, I'm learning Spanish. And then there's these questions that my Spanish teacher wanted me to know. And one of them is ¿Qué significa? ¿Qué significa? And it means, what does that mean? You know, what's the significance? What's the point? What is the effing point to you rambling about this thing? And so I'm going to challenge myself to do better. Like when I'm rambling, I'm going to challenge myself to do better, to hone in and let you know exactly what we're talking about today. When I talk about learning Spanish, when I talk about my clients' podcast that I listen to, I need to spend the time to go back and to basically get to the place where you might be, where you're listening right now, and you're saying to me, ¿Qué significa? Like, why are you telling me this? What's in it for me? Why is this significant? Why does this matter? What does that even mean? And the client had that happening all the time. They got into the deep details of things, but neglected to take a moment every now and again to remember and recognize that he actually has another person on the other end. If he could have seen my face, which he can't, if my client would have been able to see my face, he would have seen me being completely confused, not sure what he's talking about, being like, why am I here? Why is he bringing all this stuff up again? What are we talking about? And he would have seen that on my face. And then he would have been able to easily go backwards and say, the reason I'm telling you this is because blah, 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 blah. Or the reason I'm about to share a story and what I want you to get out of it is blah, 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 blah. Or in the middle of all the details, he could say something like, and what that means to you as the listener is you've got to start doing X, Y, Z. So basically breaking it down as if your listener was saying, que significa in your face every few minutes. As you're sharing this podcast episode, as you're sharing this content for your podcast, imagine that your listener keeps saying, what's in it for me? Why is this significant? Why does this matter? Why is he telling me this? Why is she telling me this? And then you spend a little bit of time to let your listener know exactly what it is that you are bringing them along this ride for. What's the purpose of this episode? And you might want to just pause and stop and share those takeaways every now and again. As you're getting into the granular details, you might say, and why that matters is because. So write it down, why that matters. Or another thing to write down, what that means to me is blank. What that means to me is you need to do this. What that means to me is we have to do this. What that means to me is you should do this. The reason I'm telling you that is because blah, 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 blah. So just remember to pause, share that information with your listener, make sure that they're not confused and saying que significa every few minutes. Give them what is significant. Give them the reason behind. Tell them what it means, and they will be able to learn the content and bring it to the next level. If you're listening to this podcast, and I know you are, then you should know that every other episode is a solo episode, and then the opposite is an interview episode. And I've got a good interview about to happen, so stick around. I'll see you on the next episode. Oh, hey, because 3 of my clients came to me recently looking to find a way to have their podcast make them money instead of cost them money, we put together a resource for some of our clients, and I want to give it to you as well. It's something that did actually seem to help, because one of them is now making $2,600 a month. Another one's $4,500 a month. And the third is making between $5,000 and $10,000 each month. And so it's been a resource that's been incredibly valuable to them. It's our sponsor sheet template. It's a template of a sponsor sheet, and it gives you something that you can hand to potential sponsors and hopefully also be making $2,600, $4,500, or between $5,000 and $10,000 regularly each month with your podcast. So this has been a contributing factor to helping all 3 of those clients turn their podcast into an additional income stream for them. And the way that you can find it is just going to our website, growyourshow.com, but put in /templates, growyourshow.com/templates. And then you can actually download that template and others that could be valuable to your podcasting experience. I'll see you on the next episode.